speaking from guesswork. I'm a scientist. I've tested my findings by every rule of scientific investigation. And I've also received a word from heaven saying it is done. So you can play if you want to. I'm not playing. And if just a handful of people follow me in sincerity, we're going to shake this world up and down. And going to bring back milk, whole milk. Milk that you see cream on top of. The whole world's leadership got weak. And people on the low levels of society begin to see the defects in the heaven of the wicked world. They saw that heaven wasn't as shiny and as pure as it looked to be. They began to burst the knowledge on high. Before they began to suspect the knowledge was wrong, men without great knowledge just couldn't accept the conduct of a world that claimed to be right and was behaving as though it knew nothing of any righteousness at all. The Honorable Frederick Douglass, in one of his addresses, perhaps you read it in Jet magazine, indicted the Western leadership, America, with such clear, clean-cut words. He brought converts even from their ranks to support the movement for justice. Is that right? Powerful and eloquent orator. Great man, Frederick Douglass. But before his time, there was Nat Turner. Black man that couldn't understand a society looking so beautiful in the face and being so cruel in its kicks, kicking him down in the dirt, stuffing him under the ground. So he rose up not being able to diagnose the disease in the mind of the Western society, but he just knew that what they preached and agreed with their action, and rose up and rebelled. Lost his life and a few lives of his slave brothers, but he sure left a mark, a pain in the conscience of the beast we call Western civilization. Is that right? Behind him, others rose. Frederick Douglass, with his preaching, he awoke the conscience of American Caucasians. Is that right? But before he awoke enough conscience, there was a fanatical Caucasian, John Brown, who read the Bible and he couldn't reconcile what was going on with the teachings of the Bible. So John Brown, the fanatical Caucasian, got on his horse and got him an army and went out trying to slave masters. Is that right? We're talking about leadership. Where did this come from? Where did Frederick Douglass get his leadership from? Who led him? Who missioned John Brown? Who missioned Nat Turner? All praise is due to Allah. There was a man called David Walker. Is that right? A slave. Up north, trying to enjoy a little freedom. David Walker preached, and if you could get the book called the David Walker Appeals and read those appeals that he made to the conscience of this artificial mentality, you'll bear me witness that that man's preaching compares with the preachings of the prophets such as Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel. Those men didn't preach with any more spiritual and moral effectiveness than did David Walker. That man preached, I'm telling you, and his word went home. But do we know of any prophet of the Belialians in America? No. Man, I preached the prophets of Israel, but didn't get one single Belialian to say, this is our prophet. Why? Because we were thoroughly destroyed, thoroughly dead, completely insensitive, 5 senses gone. Is that right? Crown of Christianity upon our head, loaded with deception, loaded with lies and deceit, killing our 5 senses, so we couldn't respond to any great leader. All right, that wasn't all. Behind them came Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, great men that championed the cause of the dignity of the Belialian people in America. Is that right? Great men, great orators. But how much support did they get from us? We followed them as long as there was a sizable number of Caucasians praising them. But as soon as the Caucasians stopped saying he was great, we forgot all about the greatness of our great hero. Is that right? Couldn't get any leadership in America, could we? No, because the whole atmosphere, all of the thoughts in the air is designed for your mind to breathe in destruction that will pause and undermine the development of strong leadership. You don't want no leadership. All you want is Jesus. Somebody that you can't identify with. Somebody you can't touch, you can't walk with him. You can go and see him, and when you come off your trip, you walk with the world. You find with dead leaders, bygone leaders. And people who don't have any governmental life in their bodies, that's all they can do is identify with dead leaders. In the history of our people, the only successful man has really been myself. I'm the only one who has been successful in coming up without support and keeping the forces intact, saving the leadership. You might say, well, didn't your father do it? No. When Master Farad left my father, his movement went down to almost nothing. 10 years passed, nothing. 20 years passed, nothing. It took him almost until 1948 to get something started again. But Almighty Allah blessed me with the knowledge of the tricks that goes on in this world. Not just on the physical plane, but on the spiritual plane. And way up there where the fire is, where the light of the sun is, he showed me the devil climb all the way up to the sun. Showed me how he go up to the sun and bring fire down from heaven. So he couldn't destroy it. Didn't know how to come at me. heard me speak and say, what in the world has happened overnight? The man don't sound like Elijah, don't sound like Moses, sounds something like Jesus. Has Jesus returned? Yes, he has, in full force. Praise is due to Allah. So our great heroes came up, and as long as they could attract the attention of the Caucasian, we were attracted. But as soon as the world forgot them, we buried our leaders. All praise is due to Allah for this day and time. But how successful he was. Soon as the Caucasians attacked him, the majority of our people turned their backs on him. They're stronger now than they've ever been. Then along came the silk butler. That old strange Arab. Didn't act like no Arab, and certainly didn't act like any Western or Caucasian person, but looked like a Caucasian and used names, titles and expressions and symbols and names of the Arab people, but taught something that looked totally different. Is that right? Sneaked in under the cover of darkness. Sneaked in under the cover of symbolism and left a heavy symbolic message. And he knew just where to put it. He didn't give it to the political-minded Bilalian or to the academic-minded Bilalian. He gave it to old Southern Baptist-minded Bilalian, whose only knowledge was symbolism. Because you know the preacher, he preached so much symbolism until he forgets his tongue sometimes. And just starts saying, preacher, he talks so much code language, and so sometimes he get out of touch with his code, and he start going into his own code. So Master Farad knew where to bring his symbolism. He brought it to the son of a Baptist preacher who was dissatisfied with the leadership of his father. Is that right? One who wouldn't be so much concerned about changing the teachings of Christ or changing the teachings of the Old Testament. He wouldn't care because he never accepted it anyway. He had his own ideas about the book. Is that right? So Master Farad searched all over the streets of Detroit and elsewhere and finally found Elijah Poole. And he dropped that heavy symbolism on Elijah Poole. Along came Elijah Mohammed, a man that was put on to the tricks of the Caucasian mind, and had faith enough in his teacher and in the teachings that he got to hold on to the formula regardless of what. If the formula don't produce today, hold on to it. In the 1930s, the formula didn't produce for Elijah Muhammad. In the 1940s, the formula didn't produce for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Even in the 1950s, the formula didn't produce for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Am I correct? But in the 60s, man, oh man, that formula started to produce for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Look how long that man had faith in his teacher. Why he had faith in his teacher? Because his teacher was wise. His teacher saw that the strongest thing in America among the Babylonian people was Jesus. So his teacher told him that I am Jesus. And Elijah Muhammad accepted Master Farad as Jesus. There was a place in his heart for Jesus. There was a place in every so-called Negro's heart in America for Jesus. So Master Farad said, I'm Jesus. And Elijah Muhammad opened up his heart. Said, yes, you must be Jesus. Don't you sound like what I've been looking for, and what I've been thinking, and what I've been feeling. I can follow you. I couldn't follow my father. But I can follow you, Master Farad. So Elijah came out in his fiery garment with this violent and fiery tongue, turning the altars into fire, the sweet waters of Scripture into fire. Is that right? Challenging the false prophets of the church. Telling Jezebel, come on out of your hiding place, woman. You wicked, filthy, no good, shameful thing. Stop hiding behind your aristocracy and come on out here and let the world see your shame. Is that right? Now Elijah Muhammad, fiery tongue, mean preacher. Is that right? Now, he came, and he was kind of, uncivilized. See, that Elijah of the book, brother, he was a little uncivilized, wasn't he? He ordered his men, I think, to go cut the heads off the false prophets, didn't he? After defeating them, he wasn't satisfied. A man wanted to draw blood, cut the heads off. He was kind of savage, you know. But the book says, before the awful and dreadful day of the Lord, Elijah must come. Is that right? See, if you have had an awful and dreadful time, somebody has to rise up in the spirit of that awful and dreadful time and start doing some awful and dreadful things to awake the mind of that awful and dreadful leadership. This was Elijah. So the book said Elijah must first come. Is that right? All praise due to Allah. But after Elijah comes Christ. Is that right? All right. Christ, he's civilized. He don't flood the rostrum. Elijah said, throw barrels of water on the pulpit. I'm going to turn it into fire. Christ didn't come like that. Christ came walking in quietly. Is that right? Came in like the quietness of a tornado that's coming. Comes in quietly, everything is so quiet. And all of a sudden there's thunder and lightning. Christ didn't do it. His presence did it. Is that right? Now, Christ didn't bring down no thunder and lightning. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. Christ was quiet. Is that right? But his quietness caused a disturbance in the atmosphere that was like the quietness before the storm. So his very presence brought about thunder and lightning and the shaking up of things. Is that right? All praise due to Allah. The predictor said, oh, this is the end. The nation of Islam is getting ready to go down. That new leader, he's reversing everything his father taught. He's not politically wise. He doesn't know how to pick up the tools of his father and get his new man was on the scene. Is that right? So they hadn't been taught like you. Elijah Muhammad says the one that come after me will be a new man. So the one that succeeds Master Farad will be a new man. And he will do all things in accordance with his own knowledge. That he won't accept anything of the old. That he'll change everything and build a totally new world.